Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sunday's edition of Weekend Waypoints, a production of SEC Extra and D1Baseball.com. I'm your host, Joe Healy, taking you through Saturday's action around the SEC and getting you ready for just a couple games here on this Easter Sunday, which I should start off that way. Happy Easter to all of those here who celebrate. For me, myself, I'm here in Kansas City, going to celebrate with my brother and his wife and his kiddos today. So looking forward to some family time today. Going to be a lot of fun. So hope the same for you as well. Before we get to any of the baseball stuff here, I have to let you know that this episode of Weekend Waypoints and every episode of Weekend Waypoints is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Get ready for a new season of fishing fun with Academy Sports and Outdoors and reel in the best gear at low prices every day. Plus, Academy offers easy ways to shop and save time, like free 1-hour in-store or curbside pickup on academy.com orders. All right, folks, welcome back. Sorry about the pre-recorded show yesterday. That was not the intention. Schedule just got the best of me. It just didn't end up having enough time in the morning before I had to hit the road to get it done. And for you guys, going live at something like 5:30 Central Time was probably also not going to be good for you. So I had to do a pre-record. My apologies. I hate when I have to do that, but occasionally it happens. So let's get on with it. We have a couple of comments here waiting. Yeah, happy Easter, everybody. Happy Easter to Todd Harris. He says, happy Easter, Joe, and the Waypoints loyalists. Christian, Sean Miller, happy Easter to you as well, Sean. Let's get to our game of the day. And today, it was a little tough to pick one today, not because there weren't options, but because there weren't any obvious options. There were certain things I liked about certain games, certain things I liked about other games, but none that just kind of combined them all together necessarily. But I landed on Vanderbilt 5, Georgia 2. Get up to the line score here. For a couple of reasons. One is I think it shows a path forward, not just for Vanderbilt, for the blueprint on here's how you beat Georgia. Those 2 runs you see there for Georgia in the 4th and the 6th came on solo home runs. And Georgia's got power. Georgia's going to hit home runs. But if you can make them solo home runs, you've got a shot to win the game. And so Vanderbilt scores 5 runs, and that's enough because it just limited base runners to the point where Georgia couldn't swing for the fences with a bunch of guys on base, and that was a key. And as we scroll down here, you'll also see Connor Fennell was great again. 5 2/3 innings, 11 strikeouts, just 3 hits allowed, and those 2 runs, which again, if you're allowing 3 hits and no walks, if you tell me you're going to give up 2 home runs in that game, I'm going to assume they're solo, right? Just because there's not a lot of base runners happening there. So another outstanding game for him. Somebody on our internal D1 baseball chat, who will remain nameless, made a joke yesterday about Connor Fennell carries himself like he's built like Riley Quick, but instead he's built like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. And it's such a good point. Like the dude just like swaggers around the mound, like endless confidence, and he should. Like he's good. Like obviously he's having a really nice season. He's been a huge find for Vanderbilt. I think he's one of the most fun pitchers to watch in the country. So yeah, go ahead, man. Swagger around the mound like you're 6 foot, 6'6" and 250 or what have you. So anyway, another great outing for Connor Fennell there. Riley Nelson, go ahead home run here. So we get up to the scoring summary here. You see here, tied 1-1, 2-run homer in the 5th for Riley Nelson, and then Vanderbilt never really looked back. They were able to play add-on late in the game. And in the big picture here, Vanderbilt sweeps. A really good result for them, and they're now a game better than Georgia in the standings. Georgia, a team that started off the season in the top 10, has been in the top 5 at points this season. And has just hit a rougher patch of SEC play. But, they're only 2 weeks removed from winning a series against or a week removed for winning a series against Georgia or Arkansas. So, that's life in the SEC. But a huge result here for Vanderbilt to get that done at home. All right. I'm coming off the share screen, so my face is about to get real big for a second. And then I'll pull it back. All right. Bunch of comments waiting. I appreciate that, guys. Todd says, how about my Bat Cats? The Slim Reaper on the mound today. Time to get the series dub. Go Cats. Yeah, I mean, spoiler alert, that's the game I'm watching most closely today. Sean, the win for Kentucky on Saturday. Sorry, I got tongue-tied there for a second. The win for Kentucky on Saturday really makes Sunday intriguing from a couple of standpoints. One is that still on paper, the best pitcher Kentucky has, the aforementioned Slim Reaper, Ben Cleaver, is still on the mound, still pitching, like hasn't thrown yet. And it's pretty rare that Tennessee gets shut down like that. And Nick McKay was really good, because it's not just that he gave up a bunch of warning track fly balls, and you look up and you're like, wow, he's really danced around trouble. And it wasn't that. He dominated. It's 12 strikeouts. So I think it's interesting from the standpoint of, I kind of assumed Tennessee is as this offensive juggernaut earlier in the season, and I do still think their ceiling offensively is very high. But that's the type of game that didn't really happen to Tennessee last year. And it was a different offensive environment. We've talked about home runs being down. The data shows that. It's not just Joe's opinion. The data shows home runs are down. Then that's probably part of it. It's a younger team for Tennessee, a more inexperienced team. No more Blake Burke, Christian Moore, et cetera. But so yeah, the finale today between them and Kentucky, I think is interesting, because if that's the type of game that's going to get played again, like, Kentucky knows how to win that kind of game. Whether or not they can get it done on the road, we'll see. But that is Kentucky's kind of party, 4-1. So it'll definitely be interesting. Carl Dunn says, "Happy Easter, Joe, from the great state of Louisiana." Agreed. Great state, Louisiana. One of my favorites. Tough game yesterday for LSU, but won the series. Next week is the series versus Tennessee, and that one should be a lot of fun. I believe Kendall is going to be there for part of that series, if I have that correct. But yeah, just a tough one yesterday. I think I give a lot of credit to Alabama in that case, because they really came out and were ready to scrap. They were ready to kind of fight back and forth and have to scratch and claw for things. And I think that's for a team salvaging a game on the weekend. I think that's as important a trait in the SEC as anything else, if you ask me. You're going to lose series in the SEC, full stop. And when you do, what do you, in losing those first two games, what do you do on Sunday or in game 3? And so Alabama showed a lot of fight there. I think that's super valuable. So yeah, tough one for LSU, but I think on the Alabama side, I saw a lot of positive there. Joey Lobster says, "Happy Easter, guys. Happy Easter to you, Joey." Flipwell27 says, "Happy Easter. Texas is good at baseball." Boy, are they. Yeah, they finished the sweep of Auburn. Auburn coming off that big sweep of LSU, riding high, going to Austin. I kind of thought, hey, if Texas is going to got here this season at home, like, it might be this weekend with this Auburn team playing really well. But nope, Texas just controlled that series. And Ike Irish swung the bat really well this weekend for Auburn, but that was kind of it in terms of like really big picture, like bright spots for Auburn this weekend. Texas just controlled it. Really, really impressive stuff from the Longhorns, which will, again, be number one. Sean asks, "So did we learn anything this weekend? Did Vandy pitch out of their mind, or is UGA a fraud away from Tiny Foley Field? Can Vandy sneak into a national seed, number 3 RPI?" Vanderbilt absolutely can sneak into a national seed. I didn't realize the RPI was that high right now, Sean. I'm glad you bring that up. Like, yeah, they definitely can. Because it's not just, here's the thing, like, there have been times last year or even the year before when we looked at Vanderbilt's offense and kind of shrugged. They were really leaning pretty heavily on, one starting pitcher or a couple starting pitchers to get it done. But this pitching staff is quietly pretty deep. I mean, J.D. Thompson pitched great this weekend. We just talked about Connor Fennell. Cody Bowker didn't have his best start, but he's been good all year. Their bullpen is really deep. They found a couple of things this year. Like, all the guys who were good last year for them in the bullpen are back, and they've added to that group. So I like the depth there. So I think it's a combination, Sean. I know it's an unsatisfying answer sometimes, but I do think Vandy pitched at a really, really high level. But I do also think this Georgia team is coming down to earth a little bit, which is kind of cruel irony for them, because I think they're pitching better these days than they were early in the season when they were mashing. So things have kind of flipped on their head. But if you're going to look, here's the thing: if you're going to hit a skid, and there's a few teams here in the league that have hit skids recently, like, do it now, because don't look now. We're a month from being in Hoover. And so, if you're gonna hit the skids, now is the time to do it, because you still got time to get going in the right direction. Joey Lobster says, "Tennessee ? Yeah, tough one yesterday. Like I said a few minutes ago, that's the type of game that didn't happen to Tennessee a lot, and hasn't the last few years. So maybe Nick McKay was just awesome. He was awesome, but maybe that's all it is. Maybe there's something more to it. Maybe something got unlocked there. We'll have to see. I think time will just have to tell on that one. Sean Miller says A&M stars didn't look great, but held Arkansas to their 2 lowest run outputs, excuse me, in SEC play. Moss and Jackson were electric in relief. And yeah, that's having Jackson do what he did, I think stood out to me in particular, Sean, because Weston Moss has done that a couple of times this year. So I'm not saying you can totally bank on it every week. That's not true, but you have seen that from him. But to have Jackson do that too, I think it has to be a sight for sore eyes for the coaching staff to have him be another guy who can give you that kind of outing from the bullpen. Because as we know with A&M, they've kind of got their guys and they roll out their guys. I heard a stat listening to the broadcast. No, this is on the Arkansas side, but I was driving this weekend and pulled up the broadcast of the doubleheader, and I think 4 guys or 5 guys maybe make up 82% of A&M's SEC innings. So that does mean that you know who your guys are, and that's great. But you sometimes need someone from outside of that circle to get it done, and Jackson was that guy. Eric Simmons, first he said happy Easter, and happy Easter to you, Eric. So time to be concerned about Georgia after getting swept by Vanderbilt. Yeah, if they're not going to swing it well, because they're talented on the mound, but I don't think they're not good enough on the mound week to week to win low scoring games. So yeah, if their offense is going to sputter like this, and it should be said they were without Rylan Zaborowski this weekend. I haven't seen any follow up on that. I'll have to see if my buddy Anthony Dasher has any updates. I'm sure he's on it, but yeah, so no Rylan Zaborowski. That's part of it, but also like it's not just that, right? There are a lot of other talented guys in that lineup. So yeah, so I think some concern for sure. Georgia just kind of has to hope water finds its level, and that they were swinging out of their minds earlier this season. Now they're kind of at a low point, and they'll kind of come back to meet somewhere in the middle, which would still make them a very, very good team here. Sean says, will Arkansas rebound? They finish at Florida, home Texas, at Louisiana, home Tennessee. Yowza. Oh, yeah, that's tough, especially with Florida playing well, right? I mean, Florida has won the first 2 against Mississippi State. They have a 3rd game today. That suddenly is not as cut and dry as it looks. Like that feels like a really important series for Arkansas, and the fact that it's going to be in Gainesville with a home crowd that's probably been re-energized a little bit and thinks that, hey, we can make a run just like we did last year. Yeah, that's tough. So rebound, I think yes to some degree, Sean. I just still really like Arkansas's team, but a couple weeks ago, going into that Georgia series, I thought Arkansas was flat out the best team in the conference, and then they lost the series to Georgia, and I still kind of was like, well, 2 1-run losses, but now they've dropped another one, and obviously A&M's playing better, that as well as anybody, but they're just not, they're not running away with things the way I thought they might when they took over number 1, and that finish is certainly not going to be easy. Arkansas Texas series though, going to be a heck of a lot of fun there for sure. Shout out to the Southwest Conference. All right. Logan Crow says Texas up 3 games with LSU, Arkansas, and Tennessee, all still having to play a round robin against each other. Feels like it would be an uphill climb for anyone else to win the conference. Yeah, I mean, 3 games is a lot with what is now 4 series left. That is an uphill climb like that. Yeah, I'm with you, Logan. There's really no other way to put that. You're in a situation where Texas is going to have to. Now, obviously, there are other ways this can happen. I'm not saying this is the only path, but the most likely path is just Texas slips up and gets swept one weekend when things just don't go their way, and one of these other teams gets really, really hot, which can happen, obviously. But to your bigger point, like it would take something at this point pretty jarring for that to turn around. Still plenty of time for it to happen, but they have it. Super impressive what Texas has done with a roster that I don't mean this disrespectfully, so I hope it doesn't get taken that way. Like, not the best roster in the league, just not. But these guys have played really well and are maximizing everything they've got. The coaching staff has pushed a lot of buttons correctly this year. Just impressive season. Canes Cats Heat coming in here to an SEC podcast to boast about the Canes, and why not? They secured a series win against Georgia Tech this weekend. Sean Miller says the book is out on Phillips for Tennessee. Run. His last 3 starts: A&M 6 stolen bases, Ole Miss 9 stolen bases, Kentucky 10 stolen bases. How slow is he to the plate? Very is the answer. He just is, and Tennessee tends to be a program, and I think I've talked about this before, but it tends to be a program that, I mean, yes, they hold runners. It's not like they ignore them or don't throw over, but they tend to be more focused on, like, hey, focus on your main job, which is getting outs at the plate, and understanding that stolen bases are going to happen. But yeah, that's definitely going to be a concern moving forward, and in a game like yesterday, where it's not like Kentucky scored 12 runs, that could have been, I mean, that might have been the difference, was letting them run around as much as they did. So yeah, Phillips he's slow to the plate, and that's just, you're right. The book is out, and now for Tennessee, it's about mitigating that, because it's slow enough that a lot of, the catchers a lot of times just don't have a chance, right, on those plays. So that will have to be something that Tennessee finds a way to work around, because Phillips is a very good pitcher, but he's not gonna, he's not gonna totally eliminate base runners. Like, that's not reality. Logan Crow comes back and says Jared Spencer injury seems serious though, so that could hurt. Agreed, that is a concern, and it might be serious. So that's definitely hurts, and we'll have to see what comes of that. But yeah, certainly if he's out an extended period, that's a tough one. Nicholas Doherty says, "Morning, Joe. Another day where Tennessee and Phillips got ran all over again." Yep, just talked about that. Kentucky is scrappy and good. Yeah, I agree. Like, Kentucky's now 8-9 in the league, and honestly, like, have so many games they could have. I mean, Kentucky, frankly, if even half of their one-run games flipped the other way, I think they wouldn't be up there with Texas necessarily at the top of the league, but they'd be up there with all of the other teams that we consider to be elite within the context of the SEC. So yeah, they're doing a really nice job. Talk about another team that doesn't have the best roster in the conference, but they're getting a lot out of it. And you're right that they're scrappy. They've got a lot of self-belief. Yeah, yesterday's win was big for them. I guess no 7 there. I guess they're 7-10, but still point stands. Big rubber game today for them. Obviously, I think it's a regional team, and they're going to be a tough out in a regional. As a 2 or 3 or whatever they end up being. That's going to be a team, like, if Louisville hosts, right? Like, and I don't know that they will. They're, I don't know if their resume is good enough, and I don't follow the ACC as close as I do the SEC, but absolute nightmare to just draw Kentucky in your in your regional with what they're capable of and how many wins they've just missed in the SEC. Excuse me. Frog in my throat this morning. John Castillo says, Happy Easter. Happy Easter, John. Awesome series for the Horns. What do you think about what they're doing in the SEC thus far? I can't wait to see what our pitching can do against the Aggies lineup next weekend. Yeah, first of all, that's going to be awesome. That series is going to be electric in Austin. Should be a lot of fun. Mark Etheridge will be there for D1 baseball. Super impressive. Like I said just a minute ago, John, like, not the most talented roster, a very talented roster, but not the most talented in the SEC. And but they are getting a higher percentage of their talent out, if that makes sense, right? Like, they are hitting as close to their, like, potential output as anybody, more so than anybody else in the conference. Like, can't say enough. Now, Jared Spencer, if that injury is a serious thing and we find that out, that's obviously a concern, but it seems kind of as simple as, okay, we maybe just, we can move Flores into the rotation along with Riojas, and we roll with that. They've got the options to do that. Now, it's not ideal. You don't want to lose more depth because, as we talked about, it's not the deepest pitching staff out there. They're a little bit similar to A&M in that way. But just in general, though, really, really impressive. I have been extremely impressed with Texas this season. Jeremy Scott says, Roll Tide. Got one win this weekend. Yeah, that was big, Jeremy. Got to get that win. And he says, Happy Easter. He is risen. Happy Easter to you as well, Jeremy. Scott says, the Vols will be okay. I'm not sweating it. I tend to agree. Scott, I'm with you there. Eric says, if Texas A&M wins 1 against Texas, 2 against LSU, sweeps Missouri, and wins 2 against Georgia, that will get them to 16 SEC wins. I think that might be enough to host a regional. What do you think? Yeah, I mean, that might be. It would depend on where the RPI is. There's some other factors. But yeah, I think that would get them certainly in the conversation. Any 16 win regular season SEC team is going to get in that discussion. And if they win a couple games in Hoover, all the better, right? So that would certainly get them on the board, as they say. And Scott says with the way A&M is playing, they might just sweep Texas. I mean, that would be very fitting of this season in the SEC if A&M just showed up in Austin and swept them. Like, yeah, with as topsy-turvy as things have been from week to week. Trent Donnell or Donnell says, who you got this weekend in Austin? I mean, I'll take Texas, home team, number one team in the country, but I'm understanding of the fact that with the A&M way A&M's playing, all bets are off. All right, let's see. Scrolling here, making sure I caught everything here. Daniel Sargent brings up a good point, not an SEC point, but West Virginia baseball is 34-4. Now, their schedule is light relative to other teams that that are leading conferences, host candidates, things like that. But they are playing really well. That's a fun team. Really enjoy watching them play. Gonna have to kind of lock in on them a little bit more down the stretch, because they could be a team where a Kentucky, for example, could end up, if West Virginia hosts a team like Kentucky, could end up in their regional. So I'll need to bone up a little bit. All right, let's see. Canes Cats Heats 305. This is a good overall question. What is realistic RPI for a bubble team? RPI for top 16, RPI for top 8. So for the top 8s and hosts, so 8 and 16, it hews pretty closely to the number. And by that I mean, to be a top 8, your RPI tends to have to be in the top 8 or 9. Like the RPI, they don't tend to deviate from the RPI much there. Maybe 10, 11 if you really have a compelling resume otherwise. And then for the top 16, it's pretty similar. You, for the most part, have to be top 20, especially if you're in the SEC, ACC, Big 12, things like that. The caveat there is sometimes the West Coast. The RPI does not fully capture the quality of the West Coast, although that's less of a problem now, just because some of those West Coast teams are now playing a lot more teams in the eastern half of the country because of conference realignment. So it'll be interesting to see if that's not as much of an issue as it used to be before. But, UCLA's hosted with like a 34 RPI or something like that in the past. So that is a little bit, but for a team like Miami, for example, because that's kind of who you're asking about, they would have to probably be closer to top 20 to host. And then bubble's a little more nebulous, but generally they say top 45 is a convenient cutoff to think about. There are all kinds of outliers on both ends, teams inside the top 45 that didn't get in, teams outside the top 45 that did get in. So that one isn't quite as cut and dry, but it is a good heuristic to use. Just if you're top 45, you're in the discussion, you're a very real candidate, kind of regardless of what else is on your resume. All right. Scrolling a little bit to make sure I got everything here. Also, a follow-up question on when it comes to hosting 18-win ACC team or 16-win SEC team. Honestly, I can't really say, because I think that matters less than the other stuff. RPI, record versus quad 1, record versus quad 2, who are your bad losses to, all of that stuff. So yes, conference win total does end up being a factor, but not nearly as important as that other stuff there. So I appreciate the question. I understand why you ask, but it's just that is asking not quite the right question in that regard. Oklahoma scored back-to-back 17s and a 12 with 3-run rules this weekend. Yes, they did. I was there for most of that. I was there for the opening game of the series on Thursday, and then was there for the first game of the doubleheader on Friday to see Kyson Witherspoon pitch, because it's my first time seeing him live. And Missouri hit him around okay, but I saw I saw the good of Kyson Witherspoon too, man. That the fastball that just is jumping on you. He pitches off his cutter a lot, which is interesting to me. It's almost like he uses his cutter the way a lot of pitchers use their four-seam fastball, where when he needed to establish the strike zone again or come back from down in the count to a batter, it was almost always the cutter that was what he went back to. So I thought that was kind of interesting, fun to watch. But yeah, Oklahoma really impressive this weekend. Did what they had to do, sweeping Missouri, and then did a little extra by just absolutely putting it on them. Because don't forget, obviously Oklahoma is better than Florida this season, but the week prior, Mizzou played Florida and played them relatively close in a doubleheader. So I thought maybe Mizzou was making at least some baby steps, but Oklahoma just not for a single second left any sort of doubt in that game. Really impressive in that series. Really impressive stuff there for the Sooners. I did a little interview with Toby Rowland during the game, so you may have heard, or not during the game, but part of his pregame show before the doubleheader. So you may have heard that if you were listening to that. Judge Smales says, "Do you think Mississippi State still has a path to a regional?" Yes, but it got a lot harder with the series loss to Florida, because that was a series, not even probably, that was a series that Mississippi State was looking at and said, look, Florida's down, Florida's injured. This is a series we got to win. And so the fact they didn't get it done is a blow for sure. But the path is still there. It's a tough path. Their schedule to finish is not a cakewalk necessarily, but you've still got, I believe they still have Mizzou on the schedule. They've still got a series against Kentucky, which is winnable. So the path is absolutely there, but it did get quite a bit harder this weekend with that series loss. Obviously, that series is already decided, but this is where the third game of a series when the series is already decided are important, because State absolutely needs the game today. I don't want to say it's a total must win, because it's not, but man, the path, it's just another degree. The hill just gets a little bit steeper with each loss, and it would get extremely steep with the loss today against Florida. Daniel Sargent says, "Does Oregon State and Coastal get to host again SEC focused podcast?" I will refer you, Daniel, to the those are good questions. I will refer you to the Nerdcast we do once a week at D1 Baseball, and I'm not just totally pushing that off. It's because I'm not part of the Nerdcast. I'm part of putting together our field of 64 at D1 Baseball, so I don't have the information at my fingertips to really give you a good answer there, and I don't want to be incorrect and give you bad information. All right. Yeah, I think Sean puts this well to Judge Smales. It's getting dark early in Stark Vegas if you lose to Florida today. Agreed. Sweep Mizzou, that's 8 SEC wins. You still need at least 5, probably 6 more against Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Auburn, and not much RPI help. I think that's put well, Sean. It's just a steep climb for sure. And thank you, Sean, for commenting at Daniel there and giving a little more context to the hosting race. And yeah, they're both very much in the conversation. All right, let's get to hitter of the day around the SEC. Thank you again for all the questions. Love having that, and enjoy seeing little conversations between you guys in the comments too. That's always a lot of fun. Okay, the hitter today is Kimball Schuessler for Texas. He went 3 for 5 with double, 2 home runs, 8 runs batted in Texas's 14-2 win against Auburn. That lasted 7 innings because it was a run rule there. He's been hot for Texas. He's been white hot for the Longhorns, and not a guy, again, this is where what they're doing is so impressive. Max Ballou goes down. They've had a couple of nagging injuries. Guys are back now, Rodriguez, Galvan, etc. But with Ballou out, and just in a long season where guys are going to kind of ebb and flow, you need guys who aren't necessarily your most prominent players to carry teams for stretches sometimes. And right now, Kimball Schuessler's getting plenty of help, but right now he is somebody who is, capable of carrying the lineup with the way he's swinging it. Rylan Galvan, big game, 2 for 4, double and a walk. Jonah Williams for Texas, 3 for 3 in that game. And I put him on here, because 3 for 3 is going to get you on the list pretty much regardless, but also a cool story. Two-sport guy, plays safety for Texas. Hadn't had a lot of opportunities this season, and I'm sure some of his early success is just that there's not a good scouting report on him, right? But also he's super talented, and going to be fun to watch and see what kind of role he has for Texas moving forward. If he's earned himself kind of everyday reps, probably has right now, just with the way he's swinging it. But it'll be interesting to see how he progresses as the season goes on. Also, Vanderbilt with their win over Georgia. Riley Nelson 3 for 4 with a homer. Ole Miss in their 12-2 win over South Carolina, salvaging a game in that series. Big win for Ole Miss to salvage that. Mitchell Sanford 3 for 4 with 2 homers and a walk. Luke Hill 2 for 3, 2 doubles, 2 stolen bases. Exact same line for Judd Utermark there. Cade Snell in Alabama's win over LSU, 2 for 3, 3 walks. A very Cade Snell day, 2 for 3 with 3 walks there. Jake Brown came on as a pinch hitter and stayed in the game. partway through the game and made the most of it. 2 for 2 with a triple and a home run and 3 runs batted in. That's what we call efficiency, folks. In Kentucky's win over Tennessee, Tyler Bell had a leadoff spot, 2 for 3 with a double and a walk. In Florida's win over Mississippi State, which was the last game to go final in the SEC last night, Bobby Boser, 2 for 4 with 2 walks. Brennan Lawson, 2 for 5 with 2 doubles. And then on the losing end of it, Noah Sullivan for Mississippi State, 3 for 5 with a home run. But the hitter of the day is and was Kimball Schusler. All right. Let's flip right over to pitcher of the day, and then I will clean up any comments that we have before we get out of here today. Pitcher of the day is Nick McKay. Can't say enough. On the road against a good Tennessee team, even if it's a Tennessee team that maybe isn't swinging it great right now, still 7 2/3 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 run. It was unearned. Dropped fly ball by Cole Hage kind of down the line in left field that allowed a runner to reach, then eventually scored. 3 walks and 12 strikeouts. Just incredible performance. Far and away the best start of the season for Nick McKay. I assume I'd have to look at the game by games, but I assume that's the best start of the season for anyone in a Kentucky uniform. Very, very good stuff there for him. Connor Fennell on this list, mentioned him. Ruger Riojas and Jason Flores kind of piggybacked it. They combined for 6 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, and 5 Ks in the win against Auburn. Mason Nichols in the win over South Carolina, 2 runs allowed in 5 innings. Very similar line for Zane Adams. Good bounce back start for him. It hasn't been an easy run for him as of late, but 5 innings pitched, 1 run allowed for him. Marcus Phillips, yes, got run all over, but you see why even despite that, they're willing to continue to ride with him. He's just really good. The numbers are good. Just has that one thing they're going to have to shore up. But 5 innings pitched there, no earned runs allowed, 8 strikeouts. And then Jake Clemente in relief in the win over Mississippi State. That was an 11-8 game. 3 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 run, no walks, 6 strikeouts. And being that it was an 11-8 game, they really needed him in that spot because they were kind of holding on for dear life to try to put that game away after Aiden King exited fairly early in his start and got roughed up a little bit. All right. Pitcher of the day, Nick McKay. All right. Let's clean up some comments here and make sure I got everything here. Just go back a little bit. Daniel Sargent says, LOL Mizzou, will they ever win a game? That was this one. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. I mean, 0-30 is on the table, but I hope for their sake they win a game, man. Like that's tough. Like it got to be tough to be in that dugout right now. Schloss said Jared Spencer is fine. It was just soreness due to the short week. Yes, that is what he said. I just think he probably, I'm not saying he made anything up. I think that was the initial thought, but that was before Jared Spencer had gone through it like a real evaluation by trainers and team doctors. So I'm kind of waiting on that official word before anything else, because I think we've just heard that before, I guess is what I'm saying, of like, oh, it's nothing. It's just a little tender. And then it turns out to be something bigger than that. So we'll see on that. Certainly hope he's fine. Definitely hoping for that for sure. Ace Man says, good morning, Joe. Missed yesterday's because I slept right through it. Well, it was a recorded show, so you didn't miss any commenting or anything like that. All right. Christian asks, how would you predict Kentucky to perform against the Vols today? Well, with let me just use that as a segue. My game of the day today is Kentucky and Tennessee in that rubber game. Ben Cleaver on the mound for Kentucky. With Ben Cleaver on the mound, I like Kentucky to be in this ball game. He's been extremely consistent, shown that he's a legit weekend guy, and if you're projecting forward, like he's a guy that's probably in 2020. I mean, he might, if it weren't for the fact that they've already got this rotation set, he would probably be Kentucky's Friday guy now. But certainly as you look into 2026, like, Ben Cleaver's their guy. But it's not going to be easy. Tennessee's going to be out to win this game, and they're probably frustrated over last night, of course. Tegan Kuhn's on the mound for Tennessee, but obviously you expect to see Krenzel after him. That's just kind of the piggyback deal they've been doing there. But Kentucky's going to be there to play. Like they're going to play hard. Could Tennessee run away with this thing? Sure, but that's not what I would predict. All right. Scrolling. This is good audio, and it's just me looking at the comments here. Here we go. A little more information from Logan Croach. Slosh was talking about getting second opinions on Spencer in his press conference yesterday. It doesn't sound good. Yeah, anytime we start talking about second opinions, like that does tend to be a little bit of a negative indicator. But so good information there, Logan. But yeah, so we'll hope for the best. But yeah, obviously when you start talking second opinions, it sounds like a different deal there. Sean says you have probably earned some goodwill from last year or two, barely got in the field, then roared to Omaha. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, the committee are humans, right? Like we can sit here and look at the data all day till we're blue in the face, but ultimately these are humans making decisions. And yeah, so you've got a Florida team that has some history there. I think that's probably fair. Whether or not it'll happen, we'll see. But I think it's a fair take there, Sean. All right, folks, that is going to do it for this edition of Weekend Waypoints. Good to be back with you guys live. Sean, I see your comment there. That's funny. No, you guys are chatting just enough, right? You're chatting just enough. Keep it up. Good to be back live with you guys after the pre-recorded episode yesterday. We'll be back next week. Regular week next week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back to the normal flow of things until, of course, the last regular season weekend of the year, at which point we'll go back to Thursdays. But Friday, Saturday, Sunday next week. Looking forward to it. I will talk to you then. Happy Easter, everybody. See you soon.